then your humanity has been taken from us by a wicked deceiver. It's not your sin, it's the sin of your enemy imposed on you. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that his teacher, Master Farad Muhammad, said that we are other than ourselves. I mean, he was so sweet the way he said it. You are other than yourself. But what is yourself that you are other than? He said yourself is a righteous person by nature. But now we are not that. So, born in sin, what does that mean? Sex is not sin. It's divinely ordained. Otherwise, procreation would not have produced human beings for billions and trillions of years on our planet. It's the misuse of sex that is sin. So sin, according to Scripture, is transgression of the law and being shaped in iniquity is because we had an iniquitous teacher who shaped us. So you got 10 commandments, what thou shalt not do, everything that God said thou shalt not do, the enemy says okay. But then when you do it, you in prison. He's the biggest thief. You out here stealing little stuff. He steals countries. You can't compete with them. You kill a few. He's culling the earth of 2 to 3 billion people as a policy of the United States government. What can our little murder in the hood do to compete with a man who's killing people all over the earth? So much so that Zbigniew Brzezinski, the former, I think he was the national security advisor under, was it Clinton? Carter.
Yeah.
He said there was a time when it was easier to control 1 million people than to kill 1 million people. But with the awakening of people all over the world because of a man called Steve Jobs and a man like Gates who gave us this tremendous thing called the iPhone and the iPad, you are in touch instantaneously with people all over the world. You can tap into libraries all over the world. There's nothing of knowledge that's not at our fingertips because of what that man did. So the media conglomerates are losing power over the masses that they've always controlled. Now, who cares? Because the young people are not looking at no TV. They hardly look at, listen to radio. Everybody's head is bent at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, on the phone.
On the phone.
Yeah.
Well, now Zbigniew Brzezinski said it's easier to kill 1 million people than it is to control 1 million people. And I don't know whether you've heard this before, but I'm going to call names because, you know, if you know what you know, then say what you know and be willing to pay the price, because there is a price for telling truth to power and waking up the masses of people who've been put to sleep by this elite that control. Imagine every time you get on the phone, they're listening. Imagine every time you send an email, they got it. So if you mad with somebody, well, I hate that so-and-so, he did such and such. Oh, really? They got it. And if they want to create mischief between you and your party, they'll get in between you, and before you know it, you're fighting each other. Well, imagine that a man has that kind of reach that he can listen into your phone, gather all information about you, so he knows when he sifts you what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are. This man, Elijah Muhammad, called him a universal snooper. So he's always trying to find something negative about you. And he'll wait until the right moment and he'll throw it on TV or tell you what you did that you didn't want nobody to know. But his day is here now. We got him. We know his history from the time he was a thought. We know what he was made of, how he was made, and the nature of him, and we know the way he thinks, and we know who made him like that. So we're in a position now to lock him up, because when a liar can't lie no more to deceive you, he's finished. When a trickster can't trick you no more because you know the way he plays his game, then his game is over. So the enemy's game is up. White supremacy is finished. The black man is rising. Humanity is rising. His day to rule us with tricks and lies is over if we wake up and realize that we've been tricked. As Malcolm said, we've been hoodwinked. We've been bamboozled. It's time to wake up.
It's time to wake up. You know, when I listen to you speak and you talk about white supremacy being on its way out, and I look at the Nation of Islam and how it's expanded its reach. You know, it's not just about the black man's plight in America anymore, correct? Like,
no.
Like anybody can join the nation. It's
about our plight all over the world.
Okay.
But in truth, my brother, the Nation of Islam was started just for black people.
Yeah.
And we started like Jesus. When Jesus started teaching, he told his followers, "Go ye not in the way of the Gentiles, or in the way of the Samaritans. Go ye to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Ain't nobody on this earth more lost than the black man and woman of America and the Western Hemisphere and our people in Africa who have lived under colonialism while we have lived under slavery and colonialism in the Caribbean, and a neo-colonialism which is to rob you of the power of your mind to keep you like a top spinning. So if we were really awake, we would be unified. You and I are brothers, cut from the same cloth. We're not only brothers because of color, we're brothers because our origin is God Himself. So now the enemy has put us like dry bones in the valley. We're all separated, disconnected. But today is our day to rise. It's our day to come together in unity and power to stop the tyranny of our oppression.
You know,
but I want to finish that question, because now Jesus said, "Go ye into all the world and preach this gospel to every nation, kindred, and tongue." Well, that's what we're doing now. And October 10, 15, which is the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, our talk that day will be in French and Spanish and Arabic and Chinese, because we're reaching for the whole world, because everywhere you look in the world, people are rising against injustice. I hope I get a chance in this broadcast to talk about Henry Kissinger and his memo to government that became a policy. Do I have time?
You have time. Can we come
Come
back to it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, you have all the time that you allot to me. So it's as much time as you're willing to give me.
Thank you, brother.
I want to bring it back domestically because just listen to you speaking about how divided we are, and messaging that you're giving to artists like Snoop and Jay Electronica, and I'm sure Kanye and Jay-Z and, Lil Herb and Louis and Ice Cube and Suge and, all the different people you've spoken to. It's hard, I'm on a radio platform every day, I'm on television, and it's hard trying to sneak truth in, and get folks to reflect on our reality. It's a challenge, You have artists like Kendrick Lamar who would make a statement in a song like The Blacker the Berry where he says, "Why would I weep with Trayvon Martin is laying in the street when gangbanging has me killing people who are blacker than me? Hypocrite." And that's how his song ends. And then he would receive a lot of backlash, and people would say that's respectability politics. What is your argument to that? I mean, that's one of the things I've said.
You can't ever argue with truth. Then you make yourself a fool. You might not like what he said, but the reality is we march every time a white man kills a black person. They've been doing that ever since we came to these shores. But what hurts is when we can smoke each other over nothing and then go back and feel like we did something good. We've become cold and heartless and naked of moral value when you can put your girls out, because now you can't sling the dope like you used to sling it. So now you take these young girls and make them prostitutes. I was in the hood, man, and as I go and talk to our brothers who are in certain conditions, certain sisters would come to me and beg me to get them out of the condition that they're in because our brothers have them prostituting themselves. And then one young girl, when I was out in the hood, some of the sisters said, "Don't you want to go over and get his autograph or shake his hand?" She said, "No, I just want to be his bee."
About you?
Yeah.
Okay.
She wanted to be a female dog for me, as though that's something glorious. See, this is ignorance on steroids. So our people need to be fixed. The problem is we can't go to Washington to charge the government and then turn a blind eye to what we're doing to one another. And that means, as I've been saying, the war that we're fighting has to be on two fronts. We can't go to Washington and say, "You all ain't treating us right," which they're not, and then deny that we're not treating each other right. So Rudolph Giuliani, I didn't like certain words that he said, so, I called him a privilege,
He said that the president didn't love America.
Yeah,
and you came to the president's defense.
Yes, because that's the president's problem. He loves America so much that he will not act in a way to correct the wrong that's sending America to hell. What kind of man should I be if I see my country corrupt and rotten? Even when he tried to correct the wickedness of George W. Bush when he first became president, They beat him up so bad that he was over there apologizing for us. He was trying to tell the world America has made mistakes. And who will deny that you've been a liar and a thief? Well, he won't say it like I say it. He'll be diplomatic. But I'm too damn old to want to be diplomatic. Liars and thieves are what they are. That's what they've done all over the world. He knows it. And for him to be a modern Pharaoh. See, when you run for the presidency of the United States, you're running for the position of the CEO of the United States of America, which is the modern Egypt, the modern Rome. So he's the modern Pharaoh. So even if he wants to do good, he can't. Look at all the drones he's sending all over the world. And violence can't accomplish anything. The minute we rise up in the hood because of the evil that is perpetrated against us, all they want to know is this going to be peaceful? Mm-hmm. They got a hell of a nerve asking us, is it going to be peaceful, when everything they've gotten all over the world is through violence, through bloodshed, through war. No, these are hypocrites, and I like to call them out.
Let me ask you this. I know in the case of Ferguson, what happened in Ferguson, you called out to the president and Attorney General Eric Holder and said you have to stop these wicked folks from killing our black and brown youth because this won't hold no more. How would you propose that they do it? Is it a policy, or what type of infrastructure could they create to how can they reverse that wickedness? If you were president, how would you do it? Wouldn't that be great?
I wouldn't want to be president of this. Mm-hmm. This is why God has come to take this out. This is an evil world that we're living in. This is not the world that Jesus was calling us toward. He said, my kingdom is not of this world. And in the book of James, it said the love of this world is enmity or hatred with God. Then Jesus said, you can't love or serve two masters. You got to love one and hate the other. Hate is not bad if you hate what God hates. But the sad thing is if you hate what God loves. And Jesus was hated without a cause. That's why it's difficult for people to walk with Farrakhan. They say, yeah, I like him a lot, but bring him around the back door at midnight because I might lose my job if I associate with Farrakhan. I don't have AIDS. I'm not a diseased man, but what I do have is knowledge, truth, that will make you stand up like a man and like a woman. And as long as you lay down, do you have children, brother?
I have a 16-year-old daughter.
May God bless you and bless her.
Thank you.
What kind of world is she growing up in? What kind of man would you want to marry your daughter? When you come out of the streets, you don't have no desire to do nothing but hustle women who are making money. What kind of man will our young girls have when they are in college and our brothers are in the street? See, this is social engineering now that's being done by those in high places. And that's why Paul said, we war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and the rulers of the darkness of this world and spiritual wickedness in high places. This is what is going on now. Little white people are not doing the things to us that cause us to be in the condition. This comes from way up. Can I give you an example?
Please do.
When I was a little boy, growing up in Boston, Massachusetts, there were factories in the inner cities all over America where unskilled labor could have a job in a factory. I don't care what kind of money they made, they brought that home and they could take care of their wives and their children. And every morning I would see a black man leaving his home with his lunch pail going to work. 40 years ago, I was overseas, and when I came back, I read in the paper that the social scientists and others were saying there's no need to invest in the inner cities because the inner cities are about to explode. So instead of people bringing money into the inner cities, the money was taken out, the factories closed, and unskilled labor had no job. So if we were not entrepreneurial to set up something that we could do to earn $1 to feed our family, now the social engineering starts taking place. You break down the family, because after that, the mothers that were on welfare, fathers, she had to lie and say there was no man living in the house so she could collect her check while the man had no job. And so she was on welfare, or she went to school and got a job. Black women can get jobs today where a black man can't get a job. You could be very talented, very brilliant, just come out of Harvard or Howard, and you can't get a job, but your woman got the job. So when your woman got more money than you, her voice is not female a lot of times. Because now you can't pay the bills because you got no money. So when you don't have any money that a man should have to feed his family and take care of his children, then the woman becomes the breadwinner and you living there not making no bread. So what are you good for? They don't need you for sex. They buy machines for that. Or you turn out on the down low. Because the woman is so strong, she make you look like a punk before you become one. Excuse me, but that's real. That's real. Yeah. Social engineering. Then here comes Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan wants to fight the communists in Central America. He comes to Congress. Congress won't give him the money. He goes to King Fahd of Arabia. He gives him 10 million. That's not enough. So enter the CIA and the drug trade. Drugs coming from Central and South America into California, where crack cocaine now becomes the craze. In the meantime, back in Washington, while we were having the Million Man March, 20 years ago, they were in Congress setting the limits on powdered cocaine as opposed to crack cocaine. So now they snatch our brothers and sisters up. We in jail with a felony. Now check how these enemies have worked us. We go into prison, then we got a job in prison. Some of us working for IBM, some of us working for Motorola, some of us working for these high-tech places, learning how to do things in prison, but when you get out, you're a felon now. You can't even use what you learned in prison, so you end right back up in prison, and the 13th Amendment is in full force. Once you are a criminal, you become a slave again. That's what this thing is all about. So now the drugs are in the community. Rick Ross, bless his heart, he said, I didn't know that I was working for the government, that the government was the one supplying me with the drugs. He said, I was making $1 million a day. Well, wouldn't that make you feel pretty good if you were making $1 million a day? Frank Lucas, he was on the heroin tip.
Yeah.
And he was bringing in what? Pure heroin. How many people were dying? The moment you and I start becoming conscious, in the 60s, Frank Lucas was bringing in heroin. In the 80s, Rick Ross bringing in crack cocaine. And now the gang warfare, the Crips, the Bloods. Then it spreads from the West Coast to the East Coast. And who's filling the jails? It's you and me. Now, as I mentioned on another program this morning, these private owners of jails met with the record executives. These are real satanic people, brother. You can't go to them with a decent rap, an intelligent rap. They'll tell you quick, oh, that won't sell. Who was that brother that went to his man at the record company? Too Short. He wanted to make a clean rap. And the man told him, he was a Jewish fella, said, now,